For hundreds of years, the Galactic Council met regularly. They debated laws, planned alliances, and decided the future of the galaxy. Representatives from every advanced species sat together at a long silver table, under the light of 3 artificial suns. But there was always one empty chair. Earth. They were invited to every meeting. They were given translation devices, diplomatic channels, even private transport offers. Still, they never showed up. At first, the Council believed Earth was too young, then too arrogant. Later, they assumed humans simply weren't ready for galactic affairs. Maybe they're scared, joked a tall, insect-like alien at the 400th meeting. Maybe they're just dumb, replied another, laughing by the 472nd meeting. Earth had become a forgotten topic. The chair was still there, but no one looked at it anymore until today. The council chamber was quiet when the lights flickered for just a second. Nothing unusual. Space stations often had minor glitches, but then, every hologram display across the room blinked. Every datapad rebooted. A message appeared on every screen. Earth is arriving. Silence, then confusion. Arriving, asked the high speaker. Arriving where? Before anyone could respond, the outer sensors screamed too. Life. Dozens of ships had just exited FTL faster than light travel around the Council's central station. Then hundreds, then thousands. It wasn't a fleet, it was a formation. Thousands of ships, all black and silent, positioned themselves above the station and around major Council worlds in perfect synchronization. Their shape was unlike anything the Council had seen, sleek, sharp, with glowing blue lines running across dark armor. No broadcasts. No demands. Just presence. In the main chamber, tension grew like a rising storm. Diplomats whispered. Military advisors reached for emergency protocols. Security bots lined up along the walls. One nervous voice said, We thought Earth didn't have space travel at this scale. They don't. Someone else replied, At least, they weren't supposed to. A bold young ambassador stood and shouted, Who gave them clearance to appear like this? No one answered. A second message appeared on all screens. You held your meetings. Now it's our turn. A wide-eyed elder from the Valari species leaned back and whispered. They were never missing. They were just watching. On the outer edge of the Council station, a camera feed zoomed in on one of the ships. It had no visible weapons, no flags, no signs of communication. Just a glowing Earth insignia barely visible, but clear. 3 golden dots over a spinning blue sphere. The mark of humanity. The Council activated a long-range scanner, hoping to gather more data. The scanner sparked, then exploded. Not with fire, but with a quiet pulse of static energy that knocked out every sensor for exactly 4 seconds. When the screens came back on, nothing had changed. The ships were still there, still silent. Still watching. One Council general growled. We should send a warning shot. A small one, just to test their response. But no one supported the idea, because deep down they already knew what Earth's response would be. The station's AI attempted to connect to Earth's diplomatic channels. No answer. Then suddenly, one screen lit up. Just one. A simple text line appeared. This is not war. This is a reminder. At the center of the chamber, a representative from the trainer system whispered what everyone was now thinking. They didn't come to talk. They came to show us that we're not in charge anymore. A quiet hum echoed through the chamber as one of Earth's ships moved not quickly. Just a slow drift toward the station. It stopped at exactly 1,000 kilometers distance and held position. Then a soft chime played through every communication channel, and a voice. Human, female. Council of Allied Species. She said, You've met for centuries without us. You've judged our silence as weakness. You've discussed our potential like we weren't listening. We were listening. We listened when you laughed, when you planned to assign our planet protectorate status, when you voted to observe us like a test subject. We chose silence, not because we feared you, the voice paused, but because we didn't need you. Now, every member in the room stood frozen. No one interrupted. No one dared. The voice continued. You've shown us your version of peace, your politics, your control. Now we show you ours. The signal ended, and across the galaxy, above every Council world, the Earth ships powered up, not weapons, but a bright blue light from their hulls that formed a single word in the sky. Listening. Not attacking. Not invading. Just watching. And, in that moment, the galaxy realized Earth had never been absent. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to speak, and now, they were speaking without saying much at all. They called it arrogance. Others whispered it was fear, but no one ever guessed the truth. Earth had stayed silent on purpose. Long before the first galactic signal reached Earth, Humanity had already been listening. They intercepted transmissions, decoded languages, mapped trade routes, and monitored military fleets. They didn't reply, not out of weakness, but because they wanted to understand what kind of galaxy they were stepping into. The Council called it an open invitation. Earth saw it as a test, and they chose to pass it differently. Back then, when Earth was first discovered by the larger galactic community, debates filled the council chambers. Primitive, said one race. Emotionally unstable, claimed another. They still argue about land and religion, laughed a third. So, the council sent the first message, a peaceful transmission, a greeting. Earth never answered. What the council didn't know was that the message wasn't missed, it was studied, broken down, stored. Earth had received it clearly and filed it with a single note. Too soon, behind closed doors, humanity had made a decision, one that no other species had made before. Do not speak, not yet, learn first. So Earth watched, listened, waited. They built hidden satellites, slipped autonomous probes into council territory, and masked them as space debris. Every conflict, every negotiation, every betrayal, Earth recorded it all. They saw how the council operated, how smaller planets were forced into protection deals that became control, how resources were shared through favors, how peacekeeping fleets circled like vultures around weaker systems. Humanity saw the smiling masks, and so, Earth remained the ghost in the room, always invited, never seen. Generations passed. On Earth it became tradition. Children in military academies were taught alien cultures before they were taught global history. Diplomats were trained to speak 10 galactic languages before they ever entered Earth's own political chambers. AI systems analyzed millions of intercepted conversations, building psychological profiles of every council leader. Still, Earth said nothing. Until something changed. A young planetary colony, Eridan 4, reached out to Earth secretly. They were under council watch and being taxed into poverty. Their leaders begged for help. No one knows what Earth sent in reply. But the next week, the council's enforcement ships orbiting Eridan 4 lost power for exactly 90 minutes. No one died. No one was harmed. When their systems returned, their ship logs were gone. Eridan 4 was never taxed again. The council assumed it was a technical failure. Earth didn't comment. That's when the real strategy began. Earth started testing limits, quietly influencing political decisions on neutral planets, swaying local votes, blocking resource deals that would have destabilized weaker systems. When trade corruption was exposed, no one knew how. When an illegal war was stopped before it began, no one saw the hand behind it. It was Earth, operating in shadows, not for dominance, but for balance. Some might have called it manipulation. Earth called it preparation. And all the while they built not fleets to conquer but fleets to protect. Ships without names, drones without heat signatures, networks that lived beneath council databases, invisible, undetectable. They weren't preparing for war, they were preparing for the day they would finally be heard. That day came when the council drafted a quiet resolution, one that would label Earth as non-compliant, giving permission to observe Earth more closely, even militarily. Earth received the draft before it was finalized. They didn't send a protest, they sent ships. Now the council knew they were never dealing with a primitive planet. They were dealing with the quietest superpower in the galaxy. Back in the present, inside the council chamber, the members sat frozen. The voice from the Earth fleet still echoed in their ears. We didn't need you. It wasn't spoken in pride or anger, that it was spoken in truth. One council elder, whose species lived through memory echoes, searched the past for signs they had missed. He found thousands. A shipment that vanished and reappeared fully repaired, a rebellion that succeeded after an unknown third party jammed enemy signals, a disease outbreak that ended days after a cure was discovered in a system that lacked the tech to develop it. All small, all dismissed. Until now. One representative stood up, shaking. They've been changing the galaxy in the background, and we let them know, said another. We made them. The station's AI attempted to trace Earth's communication source again. It failed, but this time a new message appeared. Observation complete. Action begins. Not war. Not revenge. Just a statement. Earth was done listening. They were stepping into the center, not to take over, to fix what the galaxy had allowed to break. One council member, trembling, whispered the words everyone else feared to say. Maybe. Earth stayed silent because we never deserved their voice. The Earth fleet remained still. No weapons fired, no threats given. But above every council world, 1,000 ships glowed softly like a warning. or a promise. The ships didn't move, they didn't fire, they didn't speak, but they said everything. Above every major council world, the sky had changed. What once showed stars and silence now shimmered with the cold, steady light of Earth's fleet, positioned, symmetrical, and silent. They hung like statues in the void, ships of black alloy and quiet power, each one humming softly with blue energy veins that pulsed like breathing. Citizens everywhere stared upward. They weren't screaming, not yet. But they didn't understand. No one did. What was Earth waiting for? In the Council's high chamber, diplomats argued in circles. This is psychological warfare. No shots have been fired. They're forcing fear. It's manipulation. They haven't said a word. And that was the real problem. The silence was calculated. The silence was working. On the third day, Earth broke that silence. But not with voices. Not with leaders or demands. With images. Every screen, on every council planet, flickered to life. Holograms activated in public squares. Personal devices lit up on their own. No passwords, no blocking. The broadcasts began. No voice, no intro. Just moments. Video logs, images, scans, proof of every crime the council had hidden. For decades, maybe centuries, a council fleet protecting a planet, then stealing its water supply in secret. A vote that was supposed to be democratic rigged behind closed doors with bribes and blackmail. A slave colony disguised as resource partnership. It was all real, documented, time-stamped. Humanity wasn't attacking the council. They were holding up a mirror. On one quiet planet, a young girl watched a hologram of her homeworld's governor shaking hands with a pirate lord. She looked up at her mother and asked, "Is this why Earth is angry?" Her mother didn't answer, because Earth wasn't angry. They were disappointed. On the fourth day, one council military commander had enough. He sent a patrol ship to approach an Earth vessel and demand communication. His ship powered weapons just in case. The moment they crossed into the Earth ship's proximity range, their systems shut down. All of them. Life support remained intact. Lights stayed on, but navigation, weapons, engines all went dark. Then a message appeared on their main display. "We are not here to fight, but we are not here to run." The ship drifted back into safe space, untouched but humiliated. That message spread faster than the first, and yet, still no human appeared. No leader, no face. Earth was invisible, but everywhere, above the core world of Zindar, where the council had built its seat of justice, a single Earthship performed a maneuver. Just one. It rotated 180 degrees to face the council tower directly, then stopped. No attack, just a visual message. "We're watching you first." Inside that tower, chaos had turned into silence. For decades, the council believed themselves immune to consequence. They wrote laws for others, punished others, judged others. Now, they were the ones under judgment. In a private chamber, the council's speaker stood in front of a black screen. No connection, no signal, just waiting. "I don't understand," he said to the empty air. "What do you want from us?" A single line appeared, typed slowly. "Nothing you can offer." He swallowed hard. "Then why are you here?" There was a pause, then came the answer. "Because someone had to be." Elsewhere, reactions were spreading like fire. Protests began not against Earth, but against the council. People demanded answers, demanded change. On a desert world forgotten by treaties, crowds gathered under the light of an Earthship hovering above. They cheered, they wept, not from fear, but from hope. They believed Earth wasn't here to rule. They believed Earth was here to protect. For the first time, the council was losing control, not through invasion, but revelation. And still, Earth said almost nothing. On day 6, the biggest shift came. A signal went out, short and clear. "Council silence ends tomorrow." Panic spread in whispers. Are they delivering an ultimatum? Is this the start of war? "No," said one old diplomat, his voice shaking. "This is the part where we're expected to listen." No species had ever humbled the council before, but Earth hadn't done it with fleets. They'd done it with truth, with patience, with a silence that forced the galaxy to look inward. And now the message was clear. Earth had waited. Earth had learned. Earth had endured. Now Earth had spoken, without raising a voice, without pulling a trigger. And yet, everyone was listening. Long before Earth's ships darkened the skies of council worlds, they had already entered their systems, not with weapons, with whispers. Before any official contact, before any warship ever moved, humanity had embedded itself like a shadow. In the corners of galactic history, no flags, no declarations, just silent fingerprints left on forgotten files, corrupted security feeds, and edited vote logs. Now, As Earth's fleet hovered above planets that once mocked their absence, those fingerprints were being revealed. One by one, across 1,000 cities, another broadcast began. Like the last, it wasn't announced. It simply was unavoidable, unstoppable. This time, it had a narrator, a human voice, calm, male, ageless. It echoed as if from somewhere both near and ancient. You believed Earth was late to your galaxy, but Earth was already here. Images appeared slow, deliberate. A meeting room on a council station 50 years ago. An ambassador laughing about Earth's refusal to answer their invitation. Behind him, just for a moment, a shadow moved. Humanoid, unnoticed, vanished. The camera blinked. Then the meeting resumed. No one had seen it, until now. Another image, a prison camp hidden in the asteroid fields of Silurus. A facility long denied by the council. Thousands of enslaved refugees, once held there, then lost during a mining collapse. But the footage showed something else. Human drones, silent surgical slicing into the prison's systems, unlocking doors, removing data, and disappearing with hundreds of prisoners, all in under 10 minutes. The council never mentioned it. Earth never asked for credit. They just did what needed to be done. The broadcast continued. While you held your meetings, Earth was in your data vaults. A new image. Council vote records from decades earlier, dozens of unanimous results revealed to be falsified. The screen shifted, showing the real tallies. Close votes, rejected proposals, missing objections, all covered up. Then one more frame appeared marked with a Quiet Earth logo in the corner, recovered by Initiative 9, sealed for safety, leaked only by necessity. Inside the council chamber, shock turned to denial. This is manufactured, one ambassador shouted. This is manipulation. But another, older delegate stood frozen, eyes wide. I was at that vote, he whispered. That's not how I remember it, but it's real. Across the galaxy, people watched in stunned silence. The broadcast showed more. Secret weapons labs on unregistered moons. Economic manipulations hidden behind trade deals. Species classified as extinct who were actually in hiding, protected by unknown benefactors. Benefactors who now had a face. Earth, they had never stayed away. They had walked behind the curtain. And now, they had pulled it back. In a university on the waterworld of Erith, students gathered in front of a massive display, watching as documents unfolded like pages from a long-forgotten truth. One student said aloud what everyone else was thinking. They're not invading us, they're indicting us. Back in the council tower, emergency meetings became frantic. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. But a growing number simply wanted to listen. One by one, lower-tier member worlds began disconnecting from council systems. Not to hide, but to reevaluate, to rethink their alignment. Some reached out to Earth directly. They received no reply. Because Earth wasn't negotiating. They weren't asking for allegiance or tribute. They were offering only truth. And truth didn't need approval. Outside in orbit, the ships held position. They didn't advance. They didn't retreat. They watched. One council world, the volcanic mining colony of Drekka, 4 attempted to launch missiles at the nearest Earth vessel. The missiles never left the atmosphere. They exploded before launch. Each one disarmed midair by a pulse of invisible tech. The Earth ship responded with a single broadcast. No. The message was heard loud and clear. Elsewhere, a secret file surfaced unlocked by Earth's intervention. It contained a council directive from 80 years ago. If Earth remains uncooperative, initiate soft destabilization, control media, seed discontent, prepare for quiet takeover. That file alone undid centuries of diplomacy. And yet, Earth had done nothing in return. No takeover, no counterattack, just exposure. The final image in the broadcast was not a crime or a scandal. It was a question. Text appeared across every screen in every language. If you knew the truth, and said nothing, are you still innocent? No one answered, because the answer was already clear, and the galaxy once proud, once certain, now stood bare, in front of a planet that had chosen silence, and then chosen justice, not through force, but through evidence and presence. Above every capital, those 1,000 ships glowed softly, steady like stars, but unnatural. Not a fleet of war, a fleet of memory, reminders of what happens when silence becomes strength. At first there was disbelief, then denial, then fear. Now there was movement. After Earth's revelations spread across the galaxy like wildfire, silence was no longer an option. Council governments scrambled to make public statements. Some called the broadcasts fabricated, others taken out of context. But the people weren't listening to excuses anymore. They were watching the skies. Earth's ships silent, unblinking, unmoving, overhead, not threatening, not attacking, just present. Their design was unlike anything in known space. No visible weapons, no hull markings, just dark steel and soft blue light, floating like reminders of what had been hidden, reminders of who had revealed it. On the desert world of Fail Prime, protesters marched to their governments, Senate building, holding banners not of rebellion but of Earth. Not because they wanted to join Earth's rule, but because they finally believed someone was watching those who claimed to rule them. On the lush moon of Vera, students filled public plazas with candles and music-silent vigils for the species the Council had buried, for the colonies erased from memory. Above them, an Earth vessel hovered like a guardian, casting a slow-moving shadow that didn't frighten them, it comforted them. And on the prison world of Gallows, inmates rioted not to escape, but to demand that Earth look their way. The galaxy was responding, not to a threat, but to an example. Within the Council itself, fear turned to cracks. Smaller member worlds began leaving private messages to Earth's communication network, messages of apology, of thanks, of quiet hope. They all received the same reply: we do not accept followers. We accept action. No promises, no alliances. Earth wasn't building an empire, they were raising a mirror. And what the galaxy saw was itself. One high-ranking council official stepped down live on interplanetary broadcast, saying, "We always thought Earth was the problem, but maybe they were the only ones paying attention." Others weren't so reflective. A military faction known as the Oryx Line declared Earth's actions an act of soft invasion. They launched a coordinated message across 40 systems. If Earth won't leave, we'll make them. 2 hours later, their command ships were gone. Don't explosions. No deaths, just gone. Scanners showed the ships still existed intact, untouched but phased out of standard space, relocated to what Earth called a containment fold, a place where time slowed and no weapons worked. Earth released a short statement: "You attempted war, we chose silence. This was mercy." That moment broke the last illusion that Earth was still playing by the same rules. On the far rim world of Selenort, an alien child asked her mother, "Are they going to become our rulers now?" The mother answered softly, "No, they're becoming our example." Earth's ships began to move not inward, but outward, quietly repositioning, not claiming territory, but withdrawing from it, not staying to govern, but waiting beyond system edges like watchful stars. And still, the galaxy changed. Planets that had once bowed to council pressure now opened their own assemblies. Local leaders, long hidden, emerged. War crimes were confessed. Aid was rerouted from military centers to refugee colonies, not because Earth had demanded it, because the galaxy now feared returning to the way things were. In one council recording, a desperate ambassador asked, "What do they want? Why aren't they telling us what they want?" No one could answer, because Earth never once asked for power. They asked for responsibility, and the galaxy was beginning to learn the difference. On a neutral station orbiting a dying star, a small group of rogue scientists decoded one final hidden message in Earth's broadcasts. It hadn't been meant for governments. It had been buried inside layers of code, sent directly to a place no one else thought to check: child education archives. The message was short, simple. If truth is dangerous, you are ruled by lies. Change that, or we will. No signatures, no demands. Just a quiet line meant for the next generation. Earth wasn't threatening to lead. They were threatening to stop letting others lead poorly. And across the stars, the shift was visible, not through war, not through conquest, through decisions, through AWAKENINGS. Through choice. Aboard a small listening ship near the galactic core, an elder alien turned off the stream and leaned back. "They never raised a weapon," he said. His assistant, much younger, looked confused. "Then how did they win?" The elder smiled. "They didn't win, they revealed. And now no one wants to lose to their own reflection." Outside, Earth's ships blinked once in sequence. Not a signal, a reminder. They had never been missing. They had been watching. And now that they had spoken, the galaxy would never be able to unhear them. It started with a silence that wasn't Earth's. A rogue military coalition, desperate to save face, launched a coordinated attack against what they believed was a stationary fleet. 10 ships from 4 different species, armed with high-energy cannons and gravity disruptors, targeted a single Earth vessel above the trade world of Relawan. They didn't announce themselves, they simply fired. The beams struck dead center, and vanished. No explosion. No damage. Not even a scorch mark. The Earth ship, still silent, remained exactly where it was. For 7 full seconds, nothing happened. Then every weapon system on the attacking ships powered down, not by damage, by override, lights dimmed, engines cooled, and their crews, alive, unharmed, but frozen in motion, locked in a suspended time field that Earth had never shown before. Above them, the ship they had targeted began to move. It didn't race forward or charge its weapons. It simply rotated to face them directly, its hull shifting as if it were alive. Blue light traced symbols across its surface, symbols none of the attackers recognized, but every scientist would later describe as deeply mathematical, almost instructional. Then came the voice, one word spoken across every open channel: enough. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't angry, it was final. The rogue fleet was returned to its governments intact. The soldiers awakened hours later with no memory of the moment time had stopped. Their logs were empty, their targeting data erased. Earth left no wounds. Just a lesson. Across the galaxy, that single failed attack echoed louder than any battle ever fought. Council factions that had considered resistance fell silent. Border systems that had hoarded weapons deactivated them overnight. The message was clear: Earth would not strike first, but it would finish what others started, and it would finish it without needing to kill. For many, that was the most terrifying part. In a hidden chamber deep within the council core, a group of military strategists met for what they didn't realize would be their last time. They laid out simulations, tested scenarios. Every outcome ended the same way: Earth wins quickly, quietly, not because they had the most ships, but because Earth had changed the rules. We're not fighting an empire, one general said, eyes hollow. We're facing a philosophy. Aboard the largest council station, the speaker addressed the assembly. What Earth has demonstrated is not war. It is capacity. It is what happens when a species learns not only how to defend itself, but how to deny others the chance to attack. We are not being threatened. We are being shown what restraint with absolute power looks like. Still, some refuse to believe it. On a distant world, a fanatical leader ordered a secret missile test against an unmanned Earth probe. The moment the missile was launched, the probe vanished, instantly reappearing in orbit above the launchers. Palace had dropped the missile, perfectly intact, gently onto the palace steps, with a note: we return what is not ours. The leader resigned that night. Elsewhere, Earth made its first move, not of defense, but of direction. They deployed thousands of small satellites unarmed, barely noticeable. They floated over struggling colonies, war-torn moons, and forgotten fringe worlds. Within hours, food systems were restored, diseases neutralized, clean water flowed again. No soldiers, no speeches, no credits asked. Just action, and every device carried the same marking: observe, repair, leave. It was Earth's creed: now do what is right, then move on. In a broadcast played across neutral territories, a child was shown receiving care from a medical drone. She looked into the lens and smiled, not at her own healing, but at the idea that someone had seen her at all. That image spread faster than any declaration of war, and that was the true shift. The battle Earth fought was not one of territory or fleets. It was one of meaning. Of presence. They had revealed corruption, then refused to claim the ruins. They had defended themselves, then refused to demand surrender. They had entered the galaxy, and refused to rule it. And now, something stranger than fear was growing among the stars. Respect, not because Earth had shown its strength, but because it had shown its choice to hold it back. On Earth itself, in a command center hidden beneath Antarctic ice, a general asked a simple question: will they ever strike again? Alan Reeves, standing beside him, replied without turning: only if they forget, and if they do. He finally looked up: then we remind them. He walked away, leaving the room quiet except for the sound of distant engines. Fleet already beginning to move again, not toward power, but toward purpose. The skies slowly cleared. Earth's ships didn't vanish, they didn't retreat. They simply moved, drifting upward, outward, away from the worlds they had watched without firing a single shot. No one told them to leave. They left because they had finished what they came to do. Below, on 100 different planets, people stepped out from their homes, shelters, bunkers, command centers, and looked up into a sky that had, until recently, held something unexplainable, something massive, something human. Now there was just quiet. Not silence born from fear, but the kind of stillness that comes after truth, a different kind of order. In the High Council chamber, the once dominant voices were gone. Empty chairs surrounded a hollow table. The walls still echoed with the memory of arguments, denials, and power plays. But now, there were no speeches, just a screen, and a message still playing on loop. Your galaxy doesn't need a ruler, it needs a conscience. Be one. Beneath those words, thousands of images scrolled endlessly. Proof of corruption, greed, suffering, all of it real, all of it collected, all of it delivered without judgment. Earth had never asked for control. They had demanded accountability, and then stepped back. In the underground vaults of Zin, where council records were once sealed behind 100 layers of clearance, new data filled the halls. Not secrets this time. Solutions. Medical tech from Earth's archives, freely shared. Anti-corruption protocols, open source. Defense strategies not for war, but for peacekeeping. And with them, a note: if you build better, we will not return. World by world, things began to shift. On the once exploited colony of Grenosphore, children returned to reopened, schools clean, rebuilt, supplied. The Earth drones that repaired the buildings had left 2 days earlier without a word. On Reluin Station, where weapons once lined every docking bay, traders now offloaded agricultural supplies instead. Earth had overridden the station's war software and replaced it with farming automation. No one asked how, they only used what was given. For the first time in living memory, peace wasn't enforced, it was chosen. Not out of fear, but because another way had been shown and it worked. At the edges of known space, where ships now rested like silent moons, a message pinged out every cycle. It wasn't directed at any one system, it wasn't loud, just consistent. We are not watching to control, we are watching to remind. The reminder worked. Council reforms began to pass not because they were forced, but because the people demanded them. New representatives stepped forward, many of them from smaller worlds, long ignored, finally heard. Earth sent no reply, because Earth didn't want applause, they wanted results. In a quiet conversation on a broadcast planet, a young reporter asked her guest, a retired general of the Valari, "Do you think Earth will return?" He looked toward the stars, then back at the camera. They never really left. They just don't need to be in the room anymore. Across the galaxy, the phrase spread: Earth doesn't stay, Earth corrects. At first it was used by activists, then by leaders, then by citizens simply trying to make better decisions. No religion was born, no cult followed, just awareness, a quiet knowing that somewhere out there, someone had once held a mirror up to the galaxy, and then walked away without breaking it. Back on Earth there were no celebrations, no parades, no banners of victory. In a command hub deep beneath the Pacific, a row of observers sat before a massive screen filled with hundreds of systems. Status logs blinked: green, stable, peaceful, improving. A voice from the far end spoke: "They're managing on their own." Alan Reeves nodded. "For now, and if they fail again." He leaned back, arms folded, gaze calm. "Then we show them what patience looks like." Again, no one questioned it, because Earth's greatest weapon had never been ships, or tech, or strategy. It was consistency. They showed up late, they listened longer, they spoke less, and when they acted, it wasn't to conquer, it was to course correct. Outside the solar system, the Earth fleet maintained its position, not claiming space, just occupying possibility. To those who looked for danger, they seemed like a warning. To those who hoped for better, they looked like a promise. Either way, they were watching. The galaxy had held its meetings without Earth, but Earth had given it something more valuable than presence. A standard. And for the first time the galaxy wanted to meet it, because Earth had never been missing. They had simply been waiting for the right moment. To remind everyone that peace isn't a gift, it's a choice, one that must be made again and again. And Earth would be watching, always.